Welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast, episode 29. Hello, and welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Don Cardenas, and today is a very special episode. So, a bit of backstory before I explain why it's a special episode. When I first started the podcast up again, I had plans for a bunch of different kinds of episodes, and the pandemic hit. And people's schedules got kind of out of whack, and things didn't fall into place the way I expected to. But I had a crazy idea that now that my lovely wife is working from home, and we had a kind of surprising connection, nerdy connection that we didn't really realize until a few years ago, that on the 30th anniversary of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being released in the theaters, that we should go back and just talk about our thoughts of it, because this was a movie that was huge in my childhood, and I didn't realize that my wife was into the Turtles until probably almost maybe 20 years into our relationship. It's one of those crazy things where it's like, oh my god, how did we not know this about each other? So back to the pandemic hitting, I'm like, okay, it's March, like let's do this, let's record this podcast. And then, being the parents of two lovely small children, lots of life happened. And lots of life happened after just dealing with stuff we have to do with the kids. And now here we are at the end of the year, the very last week of the year, and we are just dead set to get this out. So here we are, and I'm sitting down with my lovely wife Melody, and we're going to talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. But before we get into the Turtles, this is the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast, so I have to ask the question. Melody, Comics Coffee Metal, what are you digging right now?
I dig it all. Coffee is my favorite of all three. My first experiences with coffee were probably when I was about 9 years old, and I was curious about it. My parents were like, go for it, and that sort of thing, but they like really poor quality coffee, I've come to realize as an adult. And I really started to experience how deep flavors can be in coffee when I went completely black for 40 days and 40 nights for Lent. No cream added. And you can really taste the flavor when you just drink straight black coffee. Yeah, it's definitely pretty intense, but I got pretty used to it, and I thought it was pretty tasty, and I could still do it if I had to, but now I prefer a little half and half in it. And there's that brand we just came across, Rootless.
Yeah.
Damn fine cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Every listeners, it is true. It's very good. I am a big fan. We bought a 5-pound sack. Been working our way through it. Been drinking way too much coffee since, been working from home. Fortunate enough to be working from home, but also, going down that road of that bad habit of consuming 2 to 3, maybe more cups of coffee a day.
Yeah, and it's not just like a cup. Like a cup is
They're
8
giant
ounces.
cups,
Our
yeah.
cups are not 8 ounces.
Yeah, my cup is like huge. It's probably a 2 cup. Probably
I mean,
ends
there's
up
some
being.
people who go real crazy, but yeah, we're definitely a pot a day right now, just between us two. So.
Yeah, I gotta dial that back. And I think when I was pregnant, I was definitely monitoring it way more and breastfeeding and that sort of thing. And then I think it just went wild after Matthew was like, I'm done breastfeeding. Let's go crazy, and I can drink all the caffeine I want, and started pounding back sodas and all kinds of stuff, and had to rein it back in, and then all the things happen in the world. So back on that slippery slope there with the caffeine.
The thing is that we tend to like, the great thing about the current coffee we're drinking now is we both really like it, and we're starting to have pretty distinct differences in terms of the types of roast we like.
Yeah.
You tend to like a brighter, citrusy
I was just going to say that,
type of roast, and I've been favoring the more darker, more nutty or chocolatey type roast.
Which I kind of like, but I feel like I need a little sweet to offset it, or just drink it straight black. And it's really, black coffee is really good over ice, but I like just that hot cup to start your day.
Yeah.
And I could drink a cup of coffee and go to sleep, as you know. Like, I don't know if it's just like some crazy tolerance I've had over the years or whatever, but yeah, I can have, and then sometimes I think I have a tolerance, and then I'll say, I'm going to have a cup of coffee and go to bed. And then you'll find me 2 hours later, like scrolling
Yeah.
stupid videos on Facebook or something. So, yeah. Um, yeah. And then we have metal. So, when I was a kid, my parents were really musical. My name is Melody. So, obviously, that's a thing, right? Um, I was almost named Prudence, as you know, as in Dear Prudence, the Beatles, and my parents came to their senses and named me Melody, and I love my name. Um, and my musical sense all around is probably pretty open. The only kinds of music I can't connect to really is country. It kind of leans towards more sad stuff, but not to say that I am not drawn to melancholy things. When I think about what I like Patsy Cline and Johnny Cash are kind of country, right?
Yeah, they're in that realm that kind of like crosses over a lot with people. So
And that's really nostalgic from my grandparents, mostly my grandmother. I remember her you sitting and listen to some Patsy Cline with a little leg bob into the song, and that was like a sweet little memory I have there. Um, but my dad probably is hard rock more so.
yeah.
Rush, Pink Floyd, AC/DC. Um, and then when he goes to the metal side, he's got Motorhead. I think he had some Metallica. I'm not sure. Probably
No,
not such a big fan
I
though.
remember there's this distinct memory I have when we first started dating that I came over with like all these tapes and me and your dad were like comparing music and he had like
That's so cute.
all the
Bonding.
he had like Judas Priest and stuff like that and I had Metallica and all that and we're playing I was playing that stuff for him. So he was aware of that stuff, I know. And he's heard it. But I don't think he actually was an active listener to like Metallica. But
Like part of his collection.
he's
Yeah.
definitely a big Judas Priest guy.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's many times I'd come over and he's cleaning the house and Painkillers blasting through the speakers and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then I have that, just the memory that stands out mostly is that Neil Peart drum kit he showed me as a kid. I really love that. I can visualize it in my head, and I was so like enamored with, he can make all those sounds, and I was listening to their drum solos with my dad, so that was a pretty cool memory from that. Um, and then I grew up in Chicago, so when you go to school, the kids around you are kind of influencing some of your musical tastes,
yeah.
right? So my roots are rock, hard rock. My mom liked Heart and the Beatles and Janis Joplin and Journey and bands like that. But at school, they would listen to like rap and hip hop and R&B, and that has a place in my heart still. But when I got into high school, maybe around sophomore, junior year, I had a friend who liked Rage Against the Machine, and Battle of Los Angeles was my all-time favorite album in the world at the time. And just kind of, started experimenting more with my musical taste there. And then I met you, and you were like big Metallica fan.
Yeah.
Myself, not so much, but it actually grown on me a lot over the years, especially their latest albums I like more. Maybe it's their voices are maturing and I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you're not and also I think the thrashier stuff with alongside James's voice not being as aged
Hmm.
is probably just that bridge you haven't been able to cross entirely just yet.
Yeah, and I think like it's gonna sound really lame, but when I hear a Metallica song in the car, I think of you.
Aw.
Aw.
So,
Sorry, lame. Um, and so then being a teenager and hearing guys scream and be aggressive and that, yeah, I'm into that, and
mm,
Slipknot and System of a Down and oh boy, we're naming a bunch of them when we were chatting about that earlier. But nowadays I don't listen to too much metal, I realize, and I don't listen to a lot of music. Maybe Elmo. And I was like, I was really thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I'm not listening to a lot of music, and I try to seek out new music,
mhm.
and sometimes everything on the radio sounds the same, and that's probably my number one way of finding out about new stuff. But then also you and your very wide catalog of different kinds of music, and I'm thinking of Camelot.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me. I didn't think
I was
of
like,
all the bands I listened
whoa,
to, I didn't think Camelot would be
his
the
voice
one
is
you're.
beautiful. I'm drawn to like great voices. I'm drawn to lyrics.
Yeah,
Like you could have a crappy voice, but if I like your lyrics, I'm drawn in.
I've got you on to Nightwish a little bit.
Yeah, I dig some Nightwish tunes.
I haven't gotten you into any of the deathy, growly stuff quite yet, but
No, I like to more so mess around with it myself and scream it. You remember that one time our mutual friend was playing that song and I just started screaming the lyrics and that
yeah.
ended up being the lyrics. I don't even remember what song it was,
Oh
but
god, I remember.
yeah. So, it was like I Am Death or something. I
Yeah.
don't know what band it was or whatever. Is BLS sort of metal too?
Oh, BLS is totally metal.
Yeah,
It's
I like a lot of his songs too. But you know what? I'm probably more so the ballads for
Mhm.
him, and I like his voice all right. He's a pretty good singer. So I mean, it's probably the same for anybody that listens to music. There's certain aspects of it that draw you in.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, like Mars Volta, his voice can be really shrill sometimes, and that's probably a turnoff for some people. But I like it sometimes, and on some of his songs, I don't. You know what I mean?
Well, he also has that kind of tonality where it's very akin to like Led Zeppelin, which is another huge band for your dad.
Maybe it's yeah.
So you know
Mm-hmm.
your ear is a lot more used to that. Like I did not grow up listening to Led Zeppelin at all.
Mm-hmm.
So you know whenever those kind of falsetto-y type, you know, high pitched, screechy kind of notes normally come in like a rock song or whatever, I'm like, not for me.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I can definitely see that. And like Shinedown, I like a few of their. I know they're not metal, but I'm just talking music here, I
yeah,
guess. But they have some songs that I really dig, and then some songs I'm like, I'm gonna tap out on that. He
yeah.
just, I mean, he does a good job with the way he delivers and all
Well,
that
there's
stuff.
definitely
But
been times when we used to commute in together where you'd be
I was
like,
like, nope,
I'm
not
not.
today, not
It's too,
today, Don.
it's too early for this guy's voice right now.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I think I had said that literally to you a few times. I was like,
Yeah,
I can't right now.
yeah. So
But we normally like whoever's driving got to pick the tunes though.
yeah,
So it was like,
that's kind of how
but
we dictate
sometimes
it.
like we both trumped each other's picks occasionally. If it was
Yeah,
a certain kind of day, maybe it was a tough job that we both commuted to, pretty stressful. In addition to the commute, the big commute, the 3 hour round trip
yeah.
minimum, to and fro from Northern Illinois to Chicago. So, um, but anyways, yeah. So that's I think that's pretty much it for my metal part of that. Probably should start listening to metal again. Don't listen to metal if you're running on a treadmill or outside or running at
That's the
all.
best place to listen to
No,
metal.
because I've definitely thought I was faster than I was. And there's certain Metallica songs that I like to run to.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think. Probably
You
don't
like
know.
Broken Beat, Scarred.
Yes, that's my favorite one, I think.
What else do you like? You like Saint Anger.
Saint Anger, though, if you try to run to it and you're not fast like myself, I'm 5'2" for our listeners or the listeners out there, and my legs are short. My legs are short, so I
You
can.
assume my listeners
Yeah,
are your listeners.
yeah. Well,
They're 50%
they are
legally
right now.
your
Yeah,
listeners.
right now they're 50. Yeah, after almost 22 years together. What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine, sort of thing. Anyways, yeah, don't try to run to metal if you're not fast like myself.
Well, when you mention like, oh, I need to listen to more music, like that's a lot of why.
That seems like a
Like,
sad thing to say, right? Because it's such a big
well,
part of me. And I'm
well,
like, wow, I haven't
these
really
days it's like it's difficult to find that time. You don't necessarily have a commute anymore.
explicit lyrics. They got to be
Um,
careful about the little ears hearing.
and and it doesn't help that our kids aren't, or at least our oldest is not a fan of metal
No. Oh,
being
she covered
played.
her ears. Yeah.
Yeah, or should say
Yeah.
no, stop it, no
No stop.
guitars, no
Yeah.
guitars.
Not those kinds of guitars. She likes daddy's guitars, but not.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
Well, I mean, remember that time I was driving and Tenacious D came on? JB's got a potty mouth, guys. Like, not appropriate. And she was 3 at the time. So.
that's kind of part of the reason though I started doing some mentioning stuff on the show. Like I need to like actively make a point to listen to some music and all
Mm-hmm.
that because you just get
I
bogged
agree.
down with that. And it's just forcing that time now. I know your schedule. I know that's going to be difficult to do,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's definitely worth it because I've discovered a lot more new and cool music
Mm-hmm.
just by every Friday going to iTunes and
Mm-hmm.
looking through what's new and just clicking through albums like bands I never heard of, or going down rabbit holes from when people mention bands on Twitter and all that. Like, and like I've mentioned before in the show, like people mention, I think I've heard of bands. I think I'm pretty well rounded in my knowledge, and then a guest will say, "Oh, this is my favorite band," or "I really like this band." I'm like, I have no idea who these people are.
Mm-hmm.
I have something new to go check out.
Yeah.
You know.
Same thing on the
Sometimes,
radio
yeah,
too. Like they'll announce bands for shows, or at least when there were
yeah,
shows, and I'm like, wow, I feel like really out of touch with music.
yeah. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But it's yeah, it's as our time becomes more, I guess, it needs to be managed more as we
Mm-hmm.
get older with kids and all that. I think it's just we have to force in time to find new music and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I used to listen to music a ton on the commute. And
Mm-hmm.
as
Like
we
you
know,
said,
that commute
we have
ended,
it'd be an hour and a
thankfully.
half each way at minimum,
Yes.
so
That's a
you
lot
have
of
all that
music you could
time.
burn through.
Yeah.
And the radio and come across things on the radio and then look them up. Yeah.
You had enough time to burn through podcasts and music.
And then when, it was just me commuting for a while, I kind of switched over to podcasts more.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it kind of tapered off because we weren't allowed to listen to headphones at work or anything. And we're stuck with that common space radio playing whatever station they had it on.
Yeah.
So it was, and
But
that was almost a distraction because of the space. It was really echoey in there and
Yeah.
stuff. So it was more annoying than, comforting or whatever you want to call
when I
it.
worked there, I was still wearing headphones though.
Yeah. I mean, they switched the rules though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I just, at my current company, when we were in the office, it was fine to listen to headphones. But I felt like every time I put headphones on, somebody was showing up at my desk or
Yeah.
calling me. So I was like, this is more of a hassle. And I didn't have like headphones with like a little control on them. So I was popping them out of my ear and trying to pause whatever I was listening to. And
Well,
yeah.
now you got those AirPods though. And
Yeah,
stuff,
that's kind of cool. I'm
but-
still trying to navigate those. You know how technologically savvy I am.
Yeah.
That's sarcasm, everyone. So, and comics, I dabbled a little bit here and there throughout life. When I was a kid, I was mostly, kind of look at my cousins. I have an older cousin, about 2 years older than me. And he had like every toy you can imagine, every video game you can imagine, but he also had comic books. So I would read some of that stuff occasionally. And Turtles was probably one of those that I saw. And I actually used to do little weird comics when I was younger, and I hope we never find them as adults because I get red in the cheeks just thinking about how silly they must be now. Just like the day in the life sort of thing of some random character I drew, and very crude probably.
Well, that's how it starts for a lot of people, though. And, there's a lot of really great comics out there that are just days in the life of random characters. So,
And a lot of people forget that I have an artistic background, too, because you are the artists of the family that have pursued it as an adult here. And I'm the, kind of opposite way. But I've never continued to draw comics, more so like still life and portraits and that sort of thing. And then as an adult, I came across comics more so with you.
yeah, I've tried to pull you into quite a few things from time to time.
Yeah. And I've gotten good Hellboy reads in. That's probably my favorite. I think I've dabbled in, what was that series, Dear John? Do you remember I had a couple of those? It was like, I forget what it was. The art drew me into it.
Dear John.
Do you remember it was like some sort of war story?
Dear Billy.
Was it Dear Billy?
Yeah, it was one of the Garth Ennis ones.
Yeah, my memory's a little fuzzy there.
He's doing a lot of war stuff. Dear Billy.
And then I did some of the Challengers book clubs that they did, and that was kind of nice because I like reading a lot. But I want to say it's a problem with comics. First of all, they come out weekly, and I will eat up the whole story in one night if it's really good, and I don't like waiting. So collections are more my bag, if so to speak, if that's there's an opportunity or a story I'm interested in, for one. But for two, I love that people are so talented to be able to visually tell a story, but I like imagining a story when I read it. So I'm more into textbooks without visuals than I am with somebody showing. And it's great that people can show you exactly what is on their mind with art
That's a beautiful thing. I'm not knocking it. It just, when I read something, I like to imagine it in my own way. And as you know, I like to read books sometimes and then go watch the movie adaptations and see, well, that character, you know, didn't really look like the character I pictured. I think that just happened with my Dublin Murder Squad, my crime fiction novels that I was watching. So,
Well, that could also be attributed to your artistic side wanting some sort of control over that. Because as a comic book artist, and I know other comic artists and creators think this way, you're reading a book, sometimes you're like, how would I do this? This isn't how I would have done this. And that's not necessarily a knock on the people who are doing it or that you can do it better. It's just that's where your mind naturally kind of goes. So, and sometimes stories are so good you don't even, it's not even a thought in your mind. You're just along for the ride. So, I think the few times you have gotten into comics and you've enjoyed them, I think it's probably because they were so, like something like Hellboy. It's so singular, Mike Mignola and his style. Like who else would you know think of it this way? How different could it possibly be from what he's portraying on the page? So that makes sense to me.
yeah. And for Hellboy in particular, again, I was drawn into the story of somebody who's destined to be evil but is fighting that and is trying to do good. I like that storyline a lot. So that kind of speaks to what I was talking about previously, where I can really dig a good story. And I really respect the whole comics industry after learning about how they are made. I don't think anybody realizes how complicated it can be. And it's really cool that everybody takes time and, so much work goes into those books. It's pretty amazing. And I wish everybody had more knowledge about it because it's a big misconception that it's a kid thing. And it's really not. There's comics for all ages. Comics are for everybody, like your t-shirt says. So
Yeah.
it's very true.
Yeah, a very big discussion in comics now is like, how can we get more kids to read comics? And it's not that kids aren't reading comics; they're just not reading superhero comics. They're reading these, amazingly popular and successful stories from creators like Raina Telgemeier and selling millions of copies, but because they're being released through book publishers and not Marvel or DC, kids aren't kids aren't being seen as this demographic that's really buying up comics. So there's a lot of discussion. How do we get kids to buy comics now? And the thing is, like, they want different stories. When they get older, yeah, maybe sure they'll get into superheroes and all that. But
And would that be comics in a digital format or a paper format?
I don't see papered comics ever going away. But I think weekly comic releases are probably going to be going away. I would think it would be digital weekly releases, and then you can buy a paper collection once it's all done.
That makes sense.
Like if I was a gonna do something like that, like that's what I would do. Like I would just put it out digitally and just save the funds or whatever effort it is to get it paper, printed on paper and all that, and released and shipped out and all that. I'd wait till it's the collection because that's something you can sell forever. So.
And the collections are the ones with the ads at the end, like the little, like, kind of thumbnails and pinups
Well, yeah,
and things.
it depends.
That's kind of cool to see,
It
too.
depends on
Little
the
extras.
release. Some are just
Yeah.
they just reprint the covers in the back or things like that. But a lot of more independent or smaller publishers, there's a lot more goodies in the back than the typical like Marvel or DC trade.
And then comics in general, to just complete that thought, I do love the comic movies, and I like talking to you about it. How is this in the books? And
Yeah, that's our usual ride home discussion. Is
from
like
the movies.
Like, so what was different? And at this point, the movies are so far along. There's so many differences. It's just like half the time it's not even worth bringing up because it's like, well, it really doesn't matter. Like, so.
Sometimes there's little details that I'm just curious about, and I really love action movies, so that really feeds that desire there too. So the movies over the actual comics themselves are something that I'm drawn into.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you like the movies because it makes my life a lot easier for wanting to see them when they do get released.
Although those 3-hour times there are really getting to me in my old age here. So.
Yeah. In fact, I think to put a pin in this though, I do think you like the movies more than I do at this point.
Probably. Get excited. So. I'm looking forward to Wonder Woman 84. WW84. I think that's the title of
Yeah.
there. Yeah. So I liked what they did with the first movie, so I'm looking forward to that one.
All right. Well, speaking of comic book movies, let's get to the topic of the show, and that is 1990's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Melody, can you read us a quick synopsis of the film?
In New York, mysterious radioactive ooze has mutated 4 sewer turtles into talking, upright walking, crime fighting ninjas. The intrepid heroes Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael, and Leonardo are trained in the ninjutsu arts by their rat sensei Splinter. When a villainous rogue ninja, who is a dark figure from Splinter's past, arrives and spreads lawlessness throughout the city, it's up to the plucky turtles to stop him.
So, in this age of like hugely expensive blockbusters, the budget for this was only $13.5 million. It opened at $25.3 million and made over $200 million worldwide, which is the budget for half of these movies these days. So, but back in 1990, that was hugely impressive. It was directed by Stephen Barron, who really isn't a director of note that you would think of, but looking at his work, he directed the music videos for Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, Aha's Take on Me, Toto's Africa, and the Dire Straits video for Money for Nothing, which is something I watched endlessly because it's like the first like computer generated blocky video cartoon thing. He also directed Coneheads and The Adventures of Pinocchio, which I think was the Jonathan Taylor Thomas one. I'm not sure. The majority of the plot of the movie is centered around the initial Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird comics. They were pretty faithful to the story for the most part, and including some of the I guess the darker tone for a kids movie. The fact that Leonardo actually uses his swords, which he did not use in later movies, was something that I definitely noticed. So to go through the whole cast of the movie would be like a half hour, including the main actors and the puppeteers and the stunt performers. So we're gonna give everyone the proper respect and just not name them at all, and avoidance of not naming somebody. But I do want to bring up Sam Rockwell as the head thug, because Mr. Justin Hammer had his early start in that movie, and it is glorious. His line still this resonates with me. Regular or menthol. That hit me hard when I was little.
That's deep.
Yep. So as we get into talking about our experiences with the movie and all that, there's always the question you have to ask whenever you talk to anyone about Ninja Turtles, and that's, Melody, who is your favorite Ninja Turtle?
My favorite Ninja Turtle is Raphael, because he has a red mask, and red is my favorite color. Awesome size as his weapon. Size or Sai?
Sai.
Sai?
I think it's Sai.
Yeah, those things. Those blades.
The three pointy things.
He's also very angry, which appeals to part of my character.
Well, and as I've established previously on the show, my favorite is and always will be Leonardo. There is no wrong answer, but Leonardo is always the right answer. So, moving on.
I think you're wrong, respectfully, as the host of the show.
Well, it's a good thing I can just cut this right out then.
And I'm sure you will.
So, Melody, what was your first experience seeing this movie? Did you see it in a theater, or was it on home video, or?
I actually have a good memory of going to a theater with my cousin that I mentioned previously, my aunt, and I want to say my little sister was there. I would have been about 7 or 8 years old. My sister would have been about 5, my cousin probably 10 or 11. So that's kind of the age span between the three of us. And going to the movies was a huge thing for us when we were kids. We didn't really get to go to the actual movie theater a lot. My parents were all for renting movies or watching movies on television, but we didn't really make it out to the theater very much. So every time we had the opportunity to go, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, my first experience was we went as a huge group for a friend and neighbor's birthday, and just the anticipation bubbling from all these 6, 7, 8-year-old boys just going to movie theater to see the Ninja Turtles for the first time was just like insane. But if I were to stop and think, okay, what was I thinking watching this movie? It's just a blank. I cannot remember a single thing from watching that movie the first time, other than getting to the seats, sitting down, and the movie starting. The little opening strains of the New Line Cinema logo coming on, and that's it. I remember nothing else until the second time we saw the movie, and that's when my mom took me and my brothers to see it in Chicago. What was it? Maybe it was the Logan?
Is it Webster Place?
No, not Webster Place. This was it was the when it's almost out of theaters, like the second run.
Logan
almost,
Square, probably. Yeah.
It was some random double feature with some drama called Men Don't Leave or something. And Ninja Turtles finished, and I remember watching that very fondly and just loving it, and just laughing at all the parts again, and just loving the fact that I'm seeing these fully believable Ninja Turtles on screen kicking ass and all that. And then I do remember that Men Don't Leave movie starting, and me and my brothers were just like dead. We were just like, oh, Mom, and my poor mother was probably just like, I just wanted to see this one for me, guys, and you can't even like wait. Or she might have hated it. I don't know. She was hard to read a little bit. But I also remember leaving there, and I think she stopped at one of the corner stores to get some cigarettes or something, and the guy had like these bootleg Ninja Turtle pins, like just like draped across, by the cashier and all that, and they were like way too expensive for whatever they were, but we begged and pleaded, and we each got a pin, and that was a good highlight of that.
Was that the movie pin?
Yeah.
That was something that I remembered, like really thinking about this movie, and I can't remember when I got it, and I might still have it somewhere in our house, because I'm such a pack rat, and that would be amazing if I could find it. And I want to say mine was either Leonardo or Donatello, and it might have been one of those things where it's like a mystery wrapper, like you don't know which one you're getting until you open it. Does that sound like it could have been
no,
something?
ours, they clearly had what they had, but they didn't have Leonardo, but I didn't want any of the other turtles, so I think I got a Splinter one. Mm-hmm. But the thing I remember most, it was like the worst photo of Splinter. It was like he's all like beaten up and like sweaty and wet. Like just, this is...
Why would you want that on your shirt?
Because fuck the other turtles. I wanted Leonardo, and I did not get it.
At a protest, you have like beat up Splinter on your shirt.
Yeah.
I could see you doing that as a kid.
And then my one other experience with this movie is bringing the home video to class that we would, and when we got to watch a movie for Halloween. I remember that I had the movie, and I was king shit for that day because I brought the Ninja Turtles movie. We all got to watch it. So, and I remember my teacher like having that bit of moment when Raphael was going, "Damn."
Yeah, like a cringe. And this
And
was in the 80s, so
Yeah.
it was a big deal, guys.
It was probably one of the first swear words. Well, not the first swear words I've heard, but like just.
Wait, not the 80s. My apologies. 90s, right?
Yeah, well, technically it's
Pretty
filmed
much.
in the 80s.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
But yeah, so that was my experience with the movie. So you recently, within this year,
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned, it took us a long time to get to this. Rewatched the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, in your opinion, watching it now, like, does it hold up for you from when you first watched it when you were a kid? Like, does this still kind of have some of that nostalgia factor, or is it just kind of? Because as much as I love the movie, I can admit, like, as an adult, like, okay, there's some imperfections here, definitely more kid stuff, but, watching it now, is that stuff that you just didn't pay attention to, and you're just like kind of feeling like you're a little kid again watching it, or no?
I don't think that I felt like I was a little kid watching it again. And I was watching it while I was working out on the treadmill too. So obviously very different experience than going with my aunt and cousin and sister. One thing though, it was really refreshing to see that it was actual puppets they were using, because right now everything is like CG, everything, apart from a few movies here and there, or there's like a combo deal where they use some puppets and they use some CG. Sometimes movies just go all CG, and you can kind of tell too. It doesn't hold. Sometimes when it's older CG, it doesn't hold up well, like The Matrix, for example, in my opinion. So it didn't really bring me back to me sitting in that theater. That wasn't the vibe I got, but it was kind of, interesting to watch it with adult eyes. And I actually wrote down some thoughts. I wasn't sure if it was 7 or 8-year-old me or adult me. How are they talking? Was one. I bet you that was probably younger me. Their mouths are not moving that much was something that I noticed. Why do they have teeth? And feel free to delete any of this when you do your edits. Did the ooze give them teeth? They have a lot of muscles. That was something that I noticed rewatching probably. So that's adult me for sure. Like, wow, those turtles are hitting the gym or something. And then people in costumes was a question mark because I can't remember if that was a thought back then or now. And I asked you, are those people in costumes? Which it is people in costumes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool, I thought.
I'm not deleting any of this anyway. I'm enjoying
my musings.
I'm enjoying hearing the musings, which I'm 99% sure are 7-year-old Melody.
And for your listeners, I literally do have a list in front of me. I am a project manager by trade, so I do these things. And I even dated it. I wrote this on March 24th, 2020, so kind of like right after everything closed down, that sort of thing. And then, I don't know if we're going to get too much into the plot, but why do they want those low-end electronics? That's probably definitely an adult Melody thought, because obviously technology is advanced far, far into the future. I don't know why I wrote this down exactly. What was the whole purpose of them stealing in the U.S.? Because I felt like they were from overseas somewhere, so why did they come here to steal the electronics if most electronics are made overseas? Maybe that was the thought I was writing down there. Am I right in thinking that? Like, there's not a lot of American-made electronics anymore? Maybe there was back then. I don't know.
Well, I think the stealing was probably more of an
Look at
attractive recruitment for ne'er-do-wells and the more
Mm-hmm.
troubled youth.
Yeah. Raphael is so angry, like angrier than I remember. And maybe that doesn't really, ring true to my own character as I described as my favorite Ninja Turtle, now that I think about it. I'm not that angry. Why is a rat interested in raising turtles? Single rat in the city who is also a giant and talking.
He's just a good person, Mel.
Well, he's not a person, he's a rat.
Well,
He's a good creature, I guess. And Splinter looks like my dog Daisy. That's definitely from when I was a kid. And you saw little blurry photos of my scruffy dog Daisy. She kind of looks like Toto from Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a bunch of other random thoughts, but I'm sure that can go in when we're talking more about the plot.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
So obviously there's a ton of stuff with the plot of the movie. Some of the things that, watching it again as an adult that kind of stuck out to me was, a lot of the stuff with April's boss and his son Danny, and just kind of like the frustration and this kid's a little asshole, basically. But when I was younger watching it, I'm like, oh, Danny's just angry and misunderstood, and like, no, this kid's an asshole, man. Like, his dad's doing his best here, and he's just go to school, kid. And he's like stealing $20 from April, and it's like, man, just what a little ass, what a little dick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had no compassion for him whatsoever. So watching it again, I actually got retroactively mad as a child because he got to have like an interactive moment with Splinter. But he's such a little jerk. He didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve to get any Splinter wisdom, to be honest.
He did have a heart-to-heart one-on-one when he's all chained up against the gate there. Right?
Yeah, but Splinter's really just, kind of popping some common sense to him. So, and the Foot Clan hideout, which, obviously is, again, the movie's released 1990, but that's like pure 80s, just amazement. Like, my favorite thing was there's arcade game they were playing in there called SWAT. It just pans by it or whatever. But I remember that was the one arcade game I always wanted to play, and I never got to play. So it was like this added, like, intrigue to me of like seeing that.
Man, the foot would have had you wrapped around their
Yep,
fingers.
yep. I would have been.
Just show them that game.
Oh, also,
Little Don.
you know, in the intro when they're talking about all the thefts and stuff, they steal that old lady's TV.
Yeah.
It's like a busted up, nasty ass TV with a sticker on. It's like, what was the purpose of that? Like,
they're just being jerks.
Like, I get it. Like, you know, you're stealing, like, you know, electronics and you're trying to fund your evil ninja empire through recruitment means and selling, I guess, off the back of trucks, this kind of stuff. It's like, taking out, that's, again, it's just a big dick move. Like, it's like, why would you do that? There's no purpose in doing that.
They had the video game in their lair, so, you know, there's
that.
And
I'm just saying, you know, and you could skateboard around, you know, it's, you know, it's a very attractive offer.
You could smoke cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things going on there.
And he's got an angry, bald, you know, Japanese man walking around, just glaring down everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, small price to pay. So I guess to say for me, though, you know, did the movie hold up? Yeah. You know, I have a very strong place for this movie in my heart. And watching it again, like, even though I can nitpick it to death, there's still things that I really enjoyed about the movie. There's stuff that really kind of brings me back. And I have a lot of favorite moments of this movie, but, you know, I want to pick your brain a little bit. Like, do you have any favorite moments from this movie that you're just like, that kind of stick out to you at all? Because I do think that there's a lot of heart and effort put into this movie, and it pokes through a lot.
I can't say there was a favorite moment from when I was a kid. It was pretty cool seeing April as a main character because there was not a lot of experience with female kind of like action-y things that I saw, at least, or I was exposed to. And I was even really excited when my cousin had the action figures, and he had like the whole turtle lair or half pipe thing and the turtle van, and he had an April doll, and I was super excited to play with that. So that stands out for me. But as an adult, there was actually a cool quote from Splinter that I wrote down in my notes here. He said, "Anger clouds the mind. Turned inward, it is an unconquerable enemy." Thought that was pretty cool. And I was on the treadmill sweating and running. I'm like, I have to go look that up. That was really neat. But I thought that was neat.
And that was spoken to Danny, right? The little shit that didn't deserve to hear that?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. So that's what I thought of when we were talking. Yeah, I mean, like, you want to talk about that piece again? Like,
apparently I have some anger
let's
towards
take
Danny.
a step back. Yeah, apparently you have some turn inward.
You know, I could just list favorite moment after favorite moment here. To start with the very top, my favorite moment is the fact that my man Leonardo is the only one to get a hit in on Shredder at the end there.
Yeah, that last fight scene was pretty cool.
I mean, there's the thing where they're huddled around and, you know, Shredder's just kind of like standing back there, kind of like taking in the scenery, I guess, while they're trying to make a game plan. I'm like, all right, that seems kind of weird now as as an adult. But the fact that, you know, they all take their single turns, you know, you don't think about it too much as a kid. Like, oh yeah, they're all going to face them one by one. And, you know, again, the fact that, you know, Leonardo got the hit in, that's something a feather I put in my own cap because he's my favorite. And, you know, my brothers, you know, they had their favorites and they were not Leonardo. So I'm like, my guy got the hit in. So,
well, yeah.
Sure. Like a minute later, he like gets himself almost impaled, but
you choose to remember the hit and not the fall.
Yeah, exactly. And so something else that is like really stuck out in my mind was just at the very end when Casey Jones, you know, hits the garbage compactor on Shredder, and it's like, that was pretty rough for a kids movie. Like,
yeah, that was pretty dark.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to any kids movie though, you could kind of look at it like, wow, this is supposed to be for kids.
Well, yeah, you know, once there's definitely, especially, you know, in our era, like the kids movies were very, I guess, you know, they would probably be, you know,
they don't shy
PG-13
away from death
now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just almost a bit jarring to see though, because even though, what was that, 7 at this time, you know, my parents had cable. I saw a lot a lot worse before then, but just seeing the Ninja Turtles and Shredder getting crushed, that was rough, man.
Well, speaking of that, I was completely beside myself. I wrote beside myself here when Splinter was hurt. And it's like that scene where he looks like he's crying when he's chained to the fence. And it's probably what was on your pin.
Yeah.
You're sporting around. And I was like so distraught. And also when Leonardo was hurt. And for some reason I thought that was it Leonardo or Raphael? All right, I wrote it down here wrong. No, here's what it was.
Your favorite Ninja Turtle was near death.
I remembered it as Leonardo being hurt.
Okay.
And then I realized it was Raphael, and still tears down my face, and him in the bathtub with his little shell sticking out, all sad.
Yeah.
That was like that really got to me. And I didn't know if I was an overly emotional kid or if every kid in theater was crying. And of course, I was trying to be tough for my older cousin and stuff, but then no, tears were down my face.
The whole Northampton sequence, I think, is something that doesn't happen a lot in kids' movies these days, because it's a very quiet scene, and it's not a quick scene either. They're there for quite a bit, and I remember as a kid, getting the feels when they're all seated around the campfire and they're meditating, and the vision of Splinter comes and all that, and then the little music cue that starts kicking up when they're like, all right, we're starting to train again, and you're getting all pumped up. It's like, a sucker for a montage. So
yeah.
But that whole sequence, just the kind of time out after the craziness of the fight in the pawn shop where April lived above and owned. It's just even that fight in the pawn shop, that was pretty violent. Like,
it was. There was a fire, wasn't there?
Fire, people getting, the whole April's, that was a lot of fighting happening, and like it's just stuff that doesn't happen. A lot of bladed weapons, and Mikey being Mikey with the nunchuck standoff, and they're quipping the one-liners here and there, but it was just it was just looking back at it now, it's like you're not going to get the Northampton scene in these movies anymore for as long as it is, because it unless I'm mistaken, it takes up a decent runtime of the movie, and it builds characters. It builds the characters. It builds on the relationships and the fact that Leonardo and Raphael don't see eye to eye, but they're still brothers, and they're still caring for each other, and the April and Casey, I hate you flirtation. And then Donnie and Casey getting buddy making fun of each other, fixing the truck and all that. So yeah, that's something that would be crammed in like 5 minutes or not even existent. And if they were to make this movie now, because there wasn't anything like that in the Michael Bay. I say Michael Bay, but he produced them. But like the more recent Ninja Turtle movies, which the first one was just terrible. And you agree with me on that.
The Megan Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I watched the second one. You didn't.
That was with Bebop and Rocksteady.
That one was more fun. I still got those turtle designs are still god awful.
I didn't like their Bebop and Rocksteady voices in the previews.
Yeah. I mean they're fun. I mean those characters were those characters. But it was fun. It was more like the cartoons. And it was more ridiculous. But yeah, just I can't imagine that kind of work being done on those versions as opposed to these versions. And again, I think something that really attracted me too was, again, going back to the fighting, like a lot of that was like real fighting, like, or punching. I'm sure there's plenty of stunt work happening and all that, but there was less. It felt more visceral because it was a guy in a suit fighting a bunch of other guys in ninja suits and all that. And again, Leonardo pulled out his swords and he was swinging at them. And that was a huge thing I noticed even when I was a little kid. From the second movies on, he never used his swords. He pulled them out like halfway once in the second movie, and then he was fighting with sticks. And being the Leonardo stan that I am, yeah, that just was utter disappointment. So that adds to what keeps this movie at a special place in my heart. The fact that they, gave the turtles a lot of the gritty,
Fight scenes.
and kept some of the darkness that the comic series had, because at the time I hadn't read those comics, but when I've read them in the years after, I'm like, oh wow, it's amazing how close they had some of this stuff. Granted, in the comics the turtles kill people, but
Oh no.
but it's
I didn't know that. They kill them in the comics. They kill people, like
the Foot Clan and Shredder, like it's
because in the movie they just kind of disable them,
they
right?
fight,
Like
they
knock
fight,
them out.
yeah, they fight with blades and they fight with bladed weapons and things happen. So, but yeah, it was kind of cool to see how they kept all that. So that said, about all the I guess the violence that I enjoyed, and the heavier, more character based parts. So, when are we going to show our kids this movie?
That's a good question.
As of recording, our eldest is 4.
She's
So she's a couple
seen parts of other movies. She probably shouldn't have been watching.
She's a couple years outset from where we were when we saw this.
But she's watched things like Jurassic Park and watched the T-Rex like rip the guy off the toilet, and she's and she's narrating like, oh no, they're in a tree, and it's like, yeah, oh no, car fell out, or it's like, okay, babes, you're not scared, are you? She doesn't seem to be affected by it. I don't know what that that means at the end of the day, but
we're documenting our terrible parenting skills.
Yeah, we probably should erase all of this, huh?
No, we'll keep it for her therapy uses later. Like, see,
they were letting me watch dinosaurs eat people. Didn't she watch parts of Avengers too? I think she just likes. Or she watched parts of The Mandalorian too. No, like
no,
the lightsabers. Or was it one of the Star Wars movies?
She started to watch some of it. Yeah, just like with the Avengers, she liked seeing Iron Man and all that fly around and all that, or the Hulk and all that. And anytime there was not that, it was like, all right,
I'm bored.
Yeah, no thank you.
What, they're talking? Never mind.
Yeah.
So she likes the action too. I wonder where she gets that from. Somebody just saying they love the fight scenes in the movies. Just saying. Although I am also talking about how angry Raphael is. So we're quite the team. Parents of the year. Parents of the year.
Well, if it tracks from the stuffed animal she carried around everywhere for a good part of her early life.
Oh, that's right.
Michelangelo will be her favorite, which is an acceptable second to Leonardo.
And the funny thing about that is I won that at a kid's birthday party at an arcade while I was pregnant with her. And it just was in the back of the car for a long time. and she picked it up one day and she never let it go for a long time.
Yeah.
And she I think she even said Mikey, which was one of her rare first words. Which is very cute and a nice memory to have. All right, well, let me ask you this. Did you have any parts of the movie that you didn't like?
Danny.
I should have guessed that. Wow.
That little piece of shit Danny. Well, as much as I've been railing on the guy, at the end, also his dad is a piece of work too, firing April for doing her damn job, and just, bowing, licking the boots of the cops who are doing nothing and not listening to the reporter. But overall, it's hard for me to pick out a part I don't like about the movie, honestly speaking. Just because it's a pretty tight movie. It's not overly long. Every scene kind of leads into what the next scene is going to be. And there's so many things I do like and I do enjoy that the things I just kind of wait for or sit through, it just it doesn't last long enough for me to really register it, because even thinking again, they did a really good job of building up the Foot as bad, and also kind of setting up the fact that eventually these kids are not gonna keep going along with this. Especially with that scene with Tatsu where he beats the one guy, half to death, and all the other kids are just, all the other Foot Clan members are kind of standing around like, what the hell just happened here? So and having Casey, and I really liked Elias Koteas as Casey. I thought he did a really good job bringing that character, and you kind of went with his demeanor and all that, and you didn't ask too many questions about him within the hockey mask and just randomly patrolling and all that.
So for me, I saw the movie 30 years ago and then 9 months ago, and you obviously remember far more details than I do. But they never really explained what Casey Jones' deal was. He was a vigilante, that much is evident, but did they say why? Or is that what the vigilantes usually do? They just, I'm going to go be vigilante all of a sudden.
I don't remember if it's addressed in the movie, but basically he's an ex-hockey player who got...
Injured?
Right. Who got basically kicked out for being too violent.
So he's going to go beat up criminals?
So it could just be one of those things where it's like, I gotta let this out somewhere, so might as well let it out on some punks.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Casey Jones in particular. And if we're going to the montage scene in the farmhouse where he's trying to woo April, the I hate you, I love you thing, I was like, meh, really about that. And also a scene there where she's like drawing the turtles and describing their personalities and doing this voiceover. I'm like, meh, about that too. I was like, no thanks. Let's get back to more turtle stuff. Those were two probably, or I don't know if that's probably more than two, but a couple of things there that I was like not too keen on. But you can't really go back and knock any of the technology and stuff because it just wasn't there yet. But I think it was pretty great though. Like you were saying, it holds up because there are costumes and things like that. And I have a favorite in here I wrote down that I forgot to mention before. But Baby Splinter training, that montage, move over Grogu. Or no, that's got to be the cutest thing ever. This little, he's like following his master, and I was like, how? What?
Hi-ya.
Yeah, like this little tiny rat, and I'm like, this is amazing. How did I not remember this at all? I loved it. And when I wrote this down, it was Baby Yoda because we found out it was Grogu. Sorry if that's a spoiler for anyone. You might want to delete that. I don't know, but yeah, just to add that at the end there.
Well, going to the things you didn't like, I liked the April thing because one, as a kid who liked to draw in the Ninja Turtles, it was cool seeing someone drawing the Ninja Turtles.
Get that, yeah.
And I didn't mind it so much. Her kind of like describing them and all that, which I think is, was exposition for sure, but it was also, I don't know. I just kind of liked it, like the whole Northampton scene, and I do like Casey because he's just kind of like a giant dumbass doofus. He's not smooth, he's not suave, but he
really hits that hard.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's the dialogue he was given,
yeah.
And he went with it. He's like, "Yup, this is where I'm going."
Yeah, he's probably the definition of himbo.
Himbo?
Himbo, yes.
Okay.
My lovely wife is not on too many social media, so she has been.
Oh my gosh, I'm so behind in slang.
Absent of the term himbo. He's probably not a textbook himbo because he's not like some like super buff, super handsome guy, but he's like.
For back then, though, he's pretty.
He's athletic.
Yeah.
Attractive guy who's kind of a dummy, but he's got a good heart.
Oh, okay.
So,
are you a Casey? April shipper? Is that the term for that?
Like I don't know if that's a term anymore.
Is it? Oh gosh, I'm so behind on slang. Please cut this. I'm going to look so lame. You're going to leave it in, aren't you?
Only if it helps me seem less lame.
I told you to make me look cool.
And I told you if after 29 episodes I can't make myself look cool, honey, you have no hope.
No dice.
Okay, Melody. So, we've talked a lot about things we liked and disliked about the movie and favorite parts and our experiences with it. So as we wrap up, is there any final thoughts about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
I would say if you want to see a movie about them, it's a good one to see. I'm not a fan of all the remakes for all the old movies, and maybe that's part of the nostalgia of being a kid and seeing it for the first time and then you don't like the way they remake it sort of thing. So that would be my thought on that. It's a good way of seeing how things were done back then with movie making too. I think that's a good example with the costuming and the story layout and all that good stuff. You just have to ignore a couple of things that are out of date, like technology and whatnot. And it's just a good, fun, and quick, not a 3-hour long ordeal movie to go see.
And as I've mentioned at the top of the show, like if you listen to this and you haven't seen the movie before, this was probably the wrong thing to listen to.
Very confusing.
We were not linear in any aspect of discussing the movie, nor were we very descriptive about the plot. But, if, someone were to tell me like, oh, my kids really loves the Turtles, I want to show them the movies, I would definitely start with this one.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what iteration of the cartoons, I would definitely show them this one. The second one, you could probably skip Turtles in Time, and then I would show them the CG TMNT one. And then once they kind of see, oh, this is good, then you can kind of like say, yeah, they got some other ones, not that great. And then you can probably show them the Michael Bay ones, even though I think they're currently working on more reboots of these movies. So
much to my dismay.
So, this is, I think the best thing this movie has going for it as an adult now is the fact that it's like 90 minutes. And it's you can fit it in. You don't feel like you've, wasted your time or anything like that. It is a movie intended for kids, so there's going to be some of those kid moments. But, there's enough, seriousness and, actual thought behind some of the characterizations and the fight scenes and some of the plot to where it's like, okay, I can kind of, I can follow, I can dig into this as an adult a little bit. So.
Well, they give some sort of storytelling and plot, which is something missing sometimes from current day movies.
Yeah, and it's not all like crash bang noise like the other ones ended up being. So.
Right.
Again, I love this movie. It's got a special place in my heart. The VHS is still in my parents' house. I see it every time I walk into the door. It's in the same spot, the same entertainment center they've had for God knows how long.
That's so cute.
I see it every time. I want to take it home with me every time, but we still have a VHS player in the attic. Not that we need it because it's on Netflix or at least available digitally very easily. But yeah, I have eternal fondness for this movie, and I like talking about it with you. So
I like talking about it with you too, and I'm glad that we actually discovered this about one another, because after so many years of being together, you sometimes feel like you know every single detail of every single thing, and that was just like a happy. I think you mentioned like Bebop and Rocksteady. I'm like, oh, Ninja Turtles, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
You know about that?
And that was around the time the first Nickelodeon CG series came out in the early 2010s. And we ended up watching that for quite a while. Mm-hmm. That was kind of our Saturday morning routine, I think, or Sunday morning routine.
I think that was before kids too.
Oh yeah, it was before kids. Yeah, we would watch. We would let them build up. We would sit down, eat breakfast, watch a couple of Ninja Turtles, and then go about our day when we had all the time in the world.
All the time in the world. What did we do with it?
We watched Ninja Turtles.
Mysterious, yeah.
We watched Ninja Turtles, slept in,
went to movies,
leisurely worked out.
Crazy town.
And now we sit here on late Sunday nights talking about Ninja Turtles and when we're going to show our kids Ninja Turtles. So,
'tis life.
All right, Melody. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been a delight, and I will be happy to do another one of these if you'd like in the future.
Well, I think if we find the right movie, this is definitely going to happen again. So now I know you are you're not big on social media, so I'm not going to ask you where people can find you on social media and follow
I'm private.
you.
Yeah, I'm all private. I don't have anything to show for it anyways.
So thanks again, Melody. Again, I enjoyed talking about Ninja Turtles with you. I hope you all enjoyed listening to us ramble on about Ninja Turtles. You know what? Please feel free to contact me and let me know what your favorite parts of the Ninja Turtles movie were, what your first experiences were, and you know what? I'll follow up on following episodes, and I'll read some of them on the podcast. Just send them off to comicscoffeemetal@gmail.com, and I'll happily read anyone's thoughts and experiences about the movie, because again, as much as I enjoy talking about it, I enjoy hearing people or reading people talking about it too. So let's do it. All right.
Thanks for listening. Let's do Little Monsters. Do you think your family's cool? Or not family?
All right, wait a second. How can we have talked about this movie this long without me bringing up the absolute travesty that is the Partners in Crime Turtle Power song, where they misidentify Raphael as the leader?
Jesus, Mary, and Joseph done. I can't do this anymore. I can't. I love you, but I'm out. All right. I'll
Listen, no. This song had to be approved. This song had to be approved by so many people. This is ridiculous, and I cannot stand for it. For real, I don't care if, like, in later years he went and he's like, oh, he changed the lyrics so Raphael's the bad boy of the group and so. I don't give a shit. How do you fail that? Thank you for listening to the Comics Coffee Metal podcast. If you would like to support the show, please consider going to ko-fi.com/comicscoffeemetal and dropping a tip for the show. That's ko-fi.com/comicscoffeemetal. All funds raised by the show go directly back into it to help spread the word. If you have show or guest suggestions, comments, or questions, please send them to comicscoffeemetal@gmail.com.